Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with Part 2, Labor and Social Brotherhoods of the Brotherhood of Man by J. E. Richardson. Chapter 2, Labor and Social Brotherhoods. That we may begin at the beginning and follow the trail of the general concept back of all brotherhood, let us first consider the generic term out of which all specific concepts of brotherhood have developed. This is the term brother, what is the most direct and definite meaning and concept given to the word. The primary and fundamental meaning given to it by Webster's New International Dictionary is a male person, considered in his relation to another person having the same parents. Within this meaning, two men are brothers only when they have the same father and mother. By extension of this meaning to the animal below man, it means two male animals having the same parents. It will be observed, however, that this primary meaning has reference only to the purely physical relation, the tie of blood, otherwise designated as the relation of consanguinity. In the very early development of our language, let it be remembered that this was the only sense in which the terms brother, brothers, and brotherhood were employed. Hence, it is only by the operation of the law giving the evolution of our language that these primary terms, through variation, extension, adoption, and growth, came to suggest a number of other and different meanings. Before proceeding to a consideration of these later developments, let us observe and note another item that is of some importance, in that there seems to have been inducted a new concept into the evolutionary development of the term brotherhood. For we now have in mind the fact that, in its inception, the term has reference to the purely physical relation and nothing more. But the purely physical or blood relation of kinship, in some way not altogether clear, later came to imply that this blood relation between brothers carried with it a natural concomitant of love or affection, which does not exist between the male members of different families. For illustration, between you and your own physical brother, that is, another boy whose parents are your own father and mother, there is a deeper, more intense and enduring affection than is possible between you and any other boy who is born of other parents than your own father and mother. The question we are here facing is whether this implication is true. This is a matter of much graver significance and importance than would seem to appear upon the surface. For if it is found to be not true or is, in fact, untrue, what ethical significance, if any, has the relation existing between blood brothers, which does not likewise and in equal measure exist between the men of different families, or even of different tribes or races of mankind? There can be little doubt that those who accept the St. James Version of the Christian Bible as authoritative will accept the historic fact that Cain was the first male child of Adam and Eve, and that Abel was the second. Hence, they were both boys, born of the same father and mother, and therefore physical brothers or blood brothers, namely, brothers by the law of consanguinity. But it is not equally true, Genesis chapter 4:8, that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. Why, if the Bible is true, Cain became very wroth because the Lord accepted the offering of Abel in preference to that of Cain, his elder brother. It was evidently the green-eyed monster, jealousy, that impelled Cain to do this dastardly deed. He did it nevertheless, and is it not true that thereby he established the fact that, as between these, the very first two brothers, by the ties of blood relation, the bond of affection was an exceedingly flimsy, unreliable, and inadequate tie? Read the entire 4th chapter of Genesis in this connection and think it over. Observe also the following, which would seem to indicate that the tie of blood relationship may not be as close, in fact, as the tie of friendship may be in some instances. There is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. Proverbs chapter 18:24. If this has any meaning or significance, it would seem very clearly to indicate that there is a quality of friendship that is more to be relied upon than is the blood relation of brothers, especially that quality of brotherhood which is based upon the tie of which we speak so often and so familiarly. Moreover, it is safe to assume that personal experience and observation on the part of those who have given the subject sufficient consideration to speak without prejudice will convince the reader that brotherhood by the physical tie of blood alone does not contain the vital elements that will successfully sustain the institution to which we refer when we speak of the Brotherhood of Man. By the natural evolution of the word, it has come to include those related to or closely united with their fellows by some common tie or interest, as of rank, profession, or membership in a society. In this case, the tie or bond upon which the brotherhood rests wholly transcends that of blood relation. It is much broader in scope and is founded upon the mutual bond of a common tie or interest. In other words, its purpose is to group mankind together, quite regardless of family ties or blood relations, into associations that bring them together upon the basis of some mutual tie or interest wherein they all share. Under this head, for instance, we have the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers, the Brotherhood of Carpenters, the Brotherhood of Barbers, the Brotherhood of Fruit Growers, the Junior Order of American Mechanics, the American Federation of Labor, the CIO, etc. Let us take any of these brotherhoods, as the Brotherhood of Carpenters, for the purposes of study and comprehension. Here the individuals have associated themselves together because of their mutual tie or interest in a certain business, that of building or repairing wooden structures, etc. Around this mutual interest, they organize a brotherhood and give it a name. They formulate certain bylaws, rules, and regulations by which the members agree to be governed for the good of all. Therein they mutually agree to pay certain membership fees, dues, and assessments, and perform certain services as compensation for certain mutual benefits they shall be permitted to share because of such membership. It will be observed that this is only a very limited sort of brotherhood, although it is broader than the brotherhood of family ties and blood relationships. True, it may indicate blood brothers also, but it may, and generally does, include a vastly larger number who sustain no blood relation to each other at all. There is a distinct and definite sense in which it may justly be regarded as a selfish institution, in that it has in mind and in purpose the advantage of its members only. It does not look with any degree of approval or concern upon the welfare of those who are not within the ranks of its membership. Indeed, experience shows that it generally arrays itself in opposition to the best interest of such carpenters within the scope of its business jurisdiction, as fail, neglect, or refuse to identify themselves with its members. They may, and often do, even seek to drive such non-members of its profession or business from the field of its operations, that its members may control such businesses, and thereby greatly profit from the misfortunes of their fellow carpenters who do not wish to become members of such a brotherhood. It thus becomes a competitor against those of its fellow carpenters who exercise their right of choice to remain outside and attempt to carry on their business, trade, or profession independently. It cooperates only with its members and competes with all others of its profession, inasmuch as we are seeking for the fundamental scientific principle upon which to establish a real Brotherhood of Man. Does the above character of institution meet the conditions and requirements of a brotherhood that shall seek to benefit all mankind, all businesses, trades, occupations, professions and callings, as well as all races, sexes, colors, and previous conditions of servitude. There are reasons to justify our not thinking so. There are, however, other expressions of the law of evolution which bring us to another extension of the meaning and significance of the term brotherhood. In this instance, the common tie of interest may be of purely social nature, as in case of a social club. Otherwise, the same general conditions obtain as exist in a purely business brotherhood. That is to say, the members assume certain obligations and responsibilities in return for the privileges, pleasures, conveniences, and benefits they are permitted to enjoy with each other in the club. In this case, however, as in that of the business brotherhood, the purpose to be accomplished is solely for the benefit and pleasure of its members. It is a strictly exclusive association and of a purely selfish nature. Under the broadest and most liberal interpretation that could be given such a club, it is in no sense an altruistic association or brotherhood. It does not even intend to be of service or help to any but its own members. Hence, the fundamental principle upon which such a brotherhood is based does not seem to be sufficiently broad or universal as to include all mankind. This fact, of its narrow limitations alone, would seem to suggest that it is fatally defective in the elements necessary to sustain a brotherhood, such as we have in mind when we speak of the Brotherhood of Man. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.